Hi, folks. Nicole here from Asheville Wellness Tours, introducing the latest episode in our new weekly series where we invite wellness experts and unique small businesses from Asheville, North Carolina, into your virtual space to share tips, practices, insights, and information we can all lean into, not only in these uncertain times, but hopefully far beyond. I'm excited to introduce this week's guest, Alex Moody, the Moody Medium, who will share with us how migraines, career counseling, and growing up in a haunted house all combined to contribute to where she is today. She'll also, about halfway through, pull a few cards for all of us that really speaks to these uncertain and wild times we're living in. I hope you'll enjoy. We have some timestamps down here in the description if you want to pop ahead to any particular section. And without further ado, here we go. Okay, and we're on. Hello.
Hello.
Out there. Hello to you. I would give like an intro to what you do, but it's so very, we have orthobionomy in there. We have yoga. Alex is a medium and also reads tarot. Well, you can do it. Tell me who you are.
Yes. Hi. I'm Alex Moody. And I'm the Moody Medium. Can't have a last name like that and not use it. And again, for Asheville Wellness Tours, taught yoga for you all, as well as done a lot of group tarot, as well as the virtual tarot that we're doing. And then I say tarot, but you can say tarot.
I was going to ask you.
Things. Yeah. People say, they're like, wait, is it tarot? And I'm like, I just am weird. I just like that pronunciation better, but you can say tarot or tarot. And then I'm a medium. So I've been a medium since birth, and work with clients to do readings. And so all of my business right now has gone to be remote because the body work I do, orthobionomy, has an energy layer to it. So energy really being tone, but meaning you can then connect, similar to Reiki, and do distance work. So it's been odd, I would say, through this because I do have an office space that I love. So, and I love seeing people face to face, but yeah. And then my background is in therapeutics, yoga. I had really terrible migraines in my, well, the fun part is, like, I grew up in a haunted house. And so that's how I discovered I was a medium. And then I had really terrible migraines when I went to grad school. I was a career counselor for many years. And in grad school, decided to do really hot yoga, which kind of pushed me into yoga. What I say is I was trying to match my nervous system because it just was really dysregulated from not fully living in my gifts. And so stepping into all of those things, I first had to heal. And that looked like hot yoga for a little while, but it also then looked like really gentle yoga and, cultivating really good relationship friendships. And then it looked like learning cards and learning this body work, orthobionomy. And so that is kind of that as within, without, like kind of connecting my gifts out to people. So now doing all of these things full time is really, really cool. Especially when it comes to mediumship, because it was something I feared for so long. When you grow up, and I had night terrors, I was a little kid and would be like, Mom, there's someone in my room. And, that's probably scary for a parent too. They still live in that home, and I go home and it is sometimes not fun. This past Christmas, I had a not very fun experience there. So, it's those are like the 1% intense parts of being a medium, whereas the rest is just really beautiful, connecting people to their past loved ones, and to their higher selves, and kind of connecting, giving people information, which is also what I love about the tarot cards, is that it's giving you an additional depth to possibly a question or something you're looking at, that can kind of connect you deeper into, give you different information. And that's working with our higher selves, that has that observation lens, that space we go to that's not really attached to the material, and not meaning like money, but like not attached necessarily in the sense of how we see reality on this plane, which is that like material, like I'm sitting right now on something and I know I can sit here. I'm not levitating in the air. And so our higher self is in spirit, but it's us. So there's a lot of work with that, especially with tarot. That was too much, but anyways.
I don't think it's too much. I think it's a nice appetizer for will you come back on this series and
Yes.
tell us what it's like to be a psychic medium, what is
Yes.
orthobionomy, and
Yeah.
and today I think we're talking about tarot.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tarot.
So we have tarot. So we have a lot of things that we can look forward to talking to you about. Thank goodness. How are
You have to
you?
come back.
Yeah, you have to go back now that you've
Yeah.
given us a teaser. But how are you?
I'm doing okay. Like I'm more of an introvert. I also again, my business has shifted, and it is economically shifted in the sense that, like 70% I'd say of my business used to be face to face. So I'm working at that, like switching things over remotely. And so that's like, I have to really adapt to my business. My partner, my husband, he is still working. So feeling less economic pressure in terms of that, but more so feeling like just I don't feel like I'm going to necessarily, it's kind of like you write your 2020 goals, and like, I had to like throw this out the window. I don't think those are really going anywhere right now, which it is what it is. I really value time. So I'm loving having some extra time. My nervous system, being a medium, very, very sensitive. So, not interacting with people all the time has actually been helpful for that. And my thing is, it's kind of ups and downs, like I pay attention to, I'm not a big fan of watching, the news. I like to kind of source from different things. We've talked about this a little bit, get information from different places. But I tend to do the deep dive into information overload. And so sometimes it's like, I have to just step back from too much information, and go out and go on a hike or something, or do something like that. We live in Asheville. I live in Swannanoa. It's so North Carolina. So it's like, there isn't, I don't know, there isn't like this, like intensity of a city here as much. And so I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of enjoying not having, I know that this is terrible because it's Asheville Wellness Tours, but I am kind of enjoying not having an influx of people in the city, because it just feels like the city is kind of like resting, if that makes sense. Similar to like our bodies, but that's not the case for a lot of people. So want to honor that is not everybody's experience.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. That's why I ask you, right? Like, how are you? And it's interesting to hear from all of you where you are, and I might catch you at a different emotional place the next time we talk. And I feel like this is really a roller coaster for a lot of people. And so some folks, maybe there are kindred spirits in the introvert world out there really resonating with, like, yes, I feel the spaciousness and the rest and all of that, and I think it's interesting and an important time to realize that we don't have to understand to give space, right? Like, I don't have to feel the same way as you, but I can hear where you are, and it's a very interesting opportunity for all of us to just hold some space for each other in the wild rides that we're all on. So I think it's really valuable, and I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
And I like to ask too, what's at the heart of what you do? And I feel like you touched on this a little bit as you were introducing the different pieces of what you bring to the community and wider world, but I'm wondering why, like, what's the heart of the mission of what you do?
Yeah. So one of the main kind of, the main like heart spaces I go to around this is how to empower people to step into their own intuitive gifts. and then also how to work with that in the world. So one of my gifts is in readings is that I can see people's gifts, their intuitive gifts, and reflect that back to them. And so really connecting with them and talking to them about how to integrate these into their world, or even recognizing the gifts they're already utilizing, which a lot of people, are utilizing intuitive gifts, and they don't necessarily have the language for that. And so it's really cool because, I think of like when I was a career counselor, it's a lot about like maximizing and finding people's potential, which is really cool. And that was like that language for that. And now the language for it is like, okay, we're connecting in with like the essence of this person, because it's like, once we clear all the dust off, what is your soul's purpose? Why are you here? What are you meant to do? And that can be resourcing, via like looking at the cards, or doing a reading, or working through trauma with body work. And so there's like several different avenues working, integrating with yoga. And so it's cool because it's like really allowing people to be kind of in that space to learn about themselves, so that they get the light bulb moment, they're able to do that. And I'm simply like a resource of support, for that moment to happen. So yeah, I would say that's at the heart of the matter. And
Yeah,
lots of
well,
laughing. I laugh a lot in readings. If anyone has had a reading with me, it's a lot of laughing. So
couple giggle moments. I like
uh-huh.
what you said. I feel like you just told me that you speak a lot of different languages in a way, like the
Oh yeah.
vocabulary that you use as a career counselor, the vocabulary that you use in yoga, in as a medium. I mean, you just have these different vocabularies available to you so that you are able to speak to people in different spaces, which I think is really beautiful. Things like the Enneagram and
Yes.
and the cards, and we'll talk about the cards in a minute. And I just think that again, it's another way to talk about things that are just basic and shared, but we need a different language sometimes to
Yeah.
understand them. So I particularly value that about you. So I feel like you're able to translate to a lot of folks, me included, on many
Anytime.
occasions.
Or accidentally read your mind.
Or yeah, that sometimes happens too. Right. Yeah. Yes. Speaking of reading minds and cards, what are you going to share with us today?
Yeah. So we were talking earlier about some different ways that you could utilize the cards to get a reflection, maybe of like something that's going on in your life right now. And one way you can do that, and so I use the Rider Waite deck, Smith deck. And this is a pretty, like, quote, they say, well, is a traditional deck. But it's not necessarily the deck to use, but this is kind of the symbolism that worked really well for me when I learned the cards. So, we have the major and the minor arcana. So what we did today is we pulled 3 cards to kind of give a reflection, and it did. I think a lot of people will relate to these 3 cards. So they're really great. Let me just show a shot of the 3. And this isn't really past, present, future. Sometimes you can do this where it's like past, present, future. You know, you can go a little bit with that, but that wasn't really our intention. Our intention was to get that reflection. So we've got the Pentacles, which is the material realm. So you can think of, there's 4 realms. There's the major arcana and the minor arcana, and then there's the 4 realms, because the tarot cards were originally playing cards. So the major arcana are like overall themes, things like that, 0 through 21, which we got the Fool, the 0, which is really cool because we also got some magician vibes in here as well with the Ace of Cups. So then we have the Pentacles and the Cups. The Pentacles are the physical realm, or our material reflection that can be reduced down to money, but it's much more around like the physical reflection that we get in our world. That's where we can be like, your what you value, all of that good stuff as well. And we got the 4, which 4s are about balance, but it's interesting because this card's a little bit about imbalance, and I'll talk about that. The Ace of Cups. So the lower arcana go Ace through 10. And that's kind of like where you are in the spectrum. I love the Ace of Cups here because it's a beautiful card. The cups are the water element, and they're also emotions. So I always think like energy in motion, like it's this idea of how we feel. And then of course we've got the swords, which we didn't pull any of, but that's the mental realm. Our emotions and our thoughts are very intricately connected, right? And then our physical reflection of that. And then we did get the Fool card. He does have like a knapsack with him, and I'll show the cards too. And that is remnant of the wands, which the wands and the swords, the wands are kind of spirit realm or higher self, or like what's outside of us. What I love about these three cards, and I say this too, I do not read in reverse. I only read upright. And some readers are lovely, beautiful. They read upright or read in reverse. So of these cards too, you have the death card here, very, very present, because you have the cloak of the death in the Four of Pentacles, as well as the white rose in the Fool card. So the first card we pulled is the Four of Pentacles. So you can kind of see him here. He's sitting, he's showing off his money a little bit. He's also one of the ones that looks straight into the camera, breaks the fourth wall. And you can see his community is outside of himself. And so it's interesting because this card asks us about financial boundaries, but it also is like, what are you doing with your money right now? The death cloak is around him because it's also this idea of someone who hoards money. So this card not in balance is someone who is like, forget about the community. I don't care. I'm not donating any money during this. I have all my money and I'm going to go sit on a mountaintop, and I don't care what happens to anyone during this pandemic, right? That's kind of more out of balance. Where in balance, this is much more like, okay, I'm going to check my bank account. I'm going to budget. I'm going to understand what's coming in, and I'm going to find balance with what works. But it's a little bit too about like who we are in community, and then who we are when we're not in community. And so it's a little bit of a warning of like, all right, like connect in with your community, connect in, or that death cloak can kind of end up feeling like you don't have that reflection. And so this would be like a little bit of a nudge. Make sure you're doing those Zoom calls, make sure you're connecting with your community and not feeling like you're imbalanced and outside of your community while you're in this quarantine. So really interesting card. A lot of people are dealing with the energies of this card. Like if you're applying for unemployment, or you're applying for forbearance on your mortgage, or kind of your landlord's like, nope, you got to pay rent. This is very much like a card we're working with on a societal level right now, which is really interesting, with that coming up as well. And then you get like these two really interesting cards with this too, which, the Ace of Cups, beautiful card, right? You can see the hand. This is the hand of the magician. This is the one. This is the as above, so below on the major arcana. You can see the clouds, which is this idea too of manifestation, but it's kind of, this card is asking you like, what fills your heart up? What fills your cup up? Like you have time right now to really emotionally, we have the language in our culture for this, like what fills your cup? That's the question of this, like what makes your heart full, right? Like full heart, what is that? Like Friday Night Lights, full heart, whatever it is, can't lose.
I don't know, but maybe
right?
Somebody will tell us if somebody's watching.
So it's very much about like this idea of that as well. It also is with the ace, it's kind of like thinking too, like, what are these, how do I want to feel right now? And then feeling like, oh, I feel so drained, right? Think of that wording. I feel so drained right now. Okay, what fills me up? This card is asking you to understand things from that point of view right now. So this would be the person who's sitting at home, who's watched the news, who's discouraged, who's like, oh gosh, this pandemic, I can't do this. And then they're like, you know what? I'm going to go paint. I'm going to go do some watercolor. I'm going to go do something. I'm going to take my dog on a hike. They're going to go do something that fills their cup up so that they can emotionally be connected during a time where it may feel less available, something like that. Really, really lovely card to get there as well. And then I just love that we got the Fool card, because the Fool is the 0, right? Has the sun in it, the sun setting, which is similar to the Death card. The threshold of that, as well as this white rose, which is what the Death card has on his banner. And I bring up the Death card, you know, that is related to Scorpio in astrology. It's also related to this idea of what we learn when we are in a space of, it's not, you know, this card can be reduced down to non-attachment. Sure. Right. He's got the feather in his cap. He's learning who he is without any of his things. But it's also this idea of like what illusions we bring to ourselves and to our world around, the world, around reality, really. Like it's around, you know, like you can describe him as like the smoke or the ethers before the idea. So we're very much in this nebulous place right now as a collective, as the Fool, and that we are in this space where we don't know, but we are in this really beautiful tone of not knowing, right? There's like this collective not knowing that can be really beautiful. And the Fool is here to remind us of that. It's to remind us to be in that ether space where it's like, we don't know, right? Because what follows the Fool is the Magician. And the Magician is very much like as above, so below, very much like bringing into the material world to give us that reflection. And right now we just aren't getting that reflection. We are being asked to sit in a space of not knowing. And that can be a really powerful practice, right? Because he has the feather in his cap. When you have someone who has a feather in their cap, they're learning. Right. The other thing I love about this card is how powerful it is, right? The only one that can make fun of the king, right, is the Fool, right, without punishment. And so there's freedom to this card as well. There's a lot of that. And then you've got the lovely yellow, right? You can think of the third chakra in yoga, which is the solar plexus, which is like our self-esteem, our self-worth, our value. Like we're having to really understand our values in a different way. And like, he's such a brilliant reminder of that. So, you know, like in a reductionist way, it's like, oh, sell your house, whatever. Right. Like, you know, it's like, he gets the reputation for that. His reputation just doesn't do him justice. It's so much more about like, it's kind of like in the movie where there's like a free fall. If you hit the pause button and you're right in the middle of that free fall and you're like, I'm going to hang out here and I'm just going to be in space, you know? And like, I don't know how comfortable that would be for most of us. Just hanging out in space. So I love this because these 3 cards are simply that reminder, right? Of like, yes, there's a lot going on, especially financially, but also there's some really beautiful opportunities to be in relationship to as well. And we can really look at that as like, you know, like, so the way I always say, like, to take tarot, the reading evolves with you, right? You're a human, you're a living, breathing thing. And so then it would be this reminder of like, okay, what would the Fool do? Like, or meditating and being like, I'm going to sit with the ethers. I'm going to sit with that like smoke before the fire, right? I'm going to sit in that stillness, that space before the note and like, just notice what's there. You know, it's kind of like the orchestra has played and then it's quiet and then people clap. We're having to sit in this long quiet, you know, so you can imagine an audience full of people were like, okay, we're not going to clap yet. Oh, we're just going to sit here. You know, people would get awkward. They'd be like, what's going on here? You know, like it can be awkward even. So it's like, okay, how can I enjoy this space and not have this need to fill it? You know, it's like we're all kind of frozen in time, which I mean, again, I love, but I'm not saying everybody has to love that nebulousness, but like, I love the Fool card. So then you'd resource with that Ace of Cups. What fills your cup up? You know, be informed, but be like, I'm reading articles about the pandemic for 30 minutes and then I'm moving on, you know, like that would be that boundary of the 4 of Pentacles as well. It's so cool. I love it. It's like what we were talking about before we started recording too. So a little bit of reading for you today, Nicole, too.
Y'all, if
and I'm
you
sure
haven't,
resonates.
yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't not had an experience with Alex Moody, and you choose to in the future, you will see that this happens all the time. It's like, oh, we were just talking about this. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it some more in the context of this card and this amazing.
Well, I did, we were doing the like a photo shoot with Emily Nichols, you know, Emily, and she's lovely. And so I wanted some office shots, and we were doing the cards, and I was like, all right, cards, this is a fake reading. Give me some fun cards. Like, I don't want any serious cards. And I pulled a 7 of Swords, which is a card of trickery. It's a card of play acting. It's a card of like circus. And the cards were just like laughing at me. Like, we know, we're just going to, you know, like they gave me the play acting card. It just, you can't make it up. And then hilariously, my friend who was like the client in the photo shoot, like the reading ended up being a lot about things that I was like, well, you're getting a real reading. So it's pretty cool. I love the cards.
Well, I'm so grateful for you, for your time and sharing
Yeah,
today. And
thank
I'm so
you.
excited to talk to you again. I'll wait some days. We're just like do a costume change and let's keep talking. We'll call another episode. But I am excited to talk to you again, and I'm grateful for you. And it's really nice to see your face.
Yeah,
And
it's nice to see your face too.
yeah, I hope you continue to be well and enjoy your space. And we'll talk again soon.
Perfect. Thank you.